To me, the most important thing is you have an inner voice. There's an inner guidance system. And a lot of things in our world have taken us away from that, even social media or relationships or drugs or alcohol or marijuana or medications. But there's always this voice inside that's like, Angie, you need to take a break, or Angie, the meds, this is too much. Like, what's going on here? So when you feel this loving guidance coming from within, I would just beg you to listen to it, that it's trying to help you on a path and to save you pain. And the sooner you listen to that, the better. Everybody has one. Sometimes you just can't hear it, but just start asking, what does my inner voice have to tell me today?
Welcome to the Upside of Bipolar. I am your host, Michelle Reidinger, and I am super excited about my guest today. Angie Peacock is somebody that I've been following for a really long time on social media, and I really admire her work. So I'm so honored to have you here, have you joining and sharing your story with our audience and your expertise. You have so much to offer, and I'm so happy that you're here today.
Thank you, Michelle, for having me. I'm excited.
Absolutely. So let's start with, tell us who you are so that anybody in our audience, anybody who doesn't know you might know what your background is and what you do to help people. And then we'll go into your story because I want to make sure people hear your story. You have a really powerful one.
Thank you. My name is Angie Peacock, and I was a combat veteran who was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder and panic disorder and bipolar and major depression and generalized anxiety disorder and all the things. And then they basically over-medicated me for 13 years. I tried 40 different meds for either my conditions or the side effects of the medicine that I was taking. And then at some point, a little voice just said, what in the heck is going on here? And to get out from underneath that incredibly difficult combo of lots of diagnoses and lots of meds. And at some point in my healing journey, a film crew found me, and they filmed part of my healing journey and others of people that were coming off meds that were injured by them, which is pretty stigmatizing to say the least. And for the last 10 years, I've either been touring with the film, I did that for a few years, and then I started coaching people that were coming off meds or redefining their lives outside of the diagnostic paradigm. So that's who I am.
That's amazing. And your story, if anybody hasn't heard it, I'm going to link it in the show notes, but you shared your story recently on your YouTube channel, and it's very harrowing. First of all, I don't think that anybody who hasn't ever been on psychiatric drugs can fully understand what it does to our brains and what it feels like. And the same thing is true for when people don't really understand what withdrawal looks like and what they're actually experiencing. We have pathologized these symptoms, and it creates this convenient scapegoat for anything that you're struggling with. Is all gets lumped into these diagnoses. And so, can you start with you shared a little bit about you being a combat veteran, and then you ended up with all of these diagnoses and on all this medication. So can you share your story with the audience so that they get an understanding of where you're coming from?
Sure. Basically, I was in the military for 7 years total. And during that time, I had a few sexual assault, sexual harassment situations that I thought I bounced back from pretty quickly. I had friends that really supported me during those times. And then I went to combat in 2003. So people saw that convoy that was really long on CNN. I was in that convoy heading toward Baghdad in 2003 at the very beginning of the war, when women were not, in war, but we were right there next to the guys. Were we kicking down doors? No. Okay. But imagine gunshots everywhere, danger at any second. You turn up your hypervigilance because you're trying to stay alive and you're trying to keep your buddies alive. And so that does something to your nervous system. You're in a heightened state constantly. It's almost like you learn how to be alert, and you have to be, or your life is on the line. So when you're in that heightened state for 6 months, like I was, I started to get a little panicky. I started to not sleep very well. But also on top of that, we were given anti-malaria medications, which I took every single day, like I was ordered. And that had its own mental health effects, because we know now, 25 years later, that the gut is connected to the brain. So I'm taking these antibiotics, and it's giving me this horrible gastrointestinal distress. And I lost so much weight. I looked like, you could see all my bones. It's in the film if you ever want to watch it, Medicating Normal on YouTube. But I was very sick, and my commander finally recognized that and was like, you got to leave. Like, you are going to die. And I'm like, I know. So I had the combination of like combat threat with like a health problem that nobody knew what it was, and they couldn't treat it because we were in Baghdad in 2003, and there was very little in the way of testing or hospitals or anything like that. So I basically was medically evacuated out back to Germany. They did a bunch of testing. They found that I had lymphocytic colitis, which is basically medication induced colon infection. And I had been living like that and passing out and tachycardia and diarrhea and all these things. And then, wouldn't you know it, as soon as I got home, well, I was in Germany, then the very next day, my convoy was hit by an IED. So a bomb went off and one of my soldiers got injured. And so then he came back on a stretcher, and then I had to see him wake up from surgery. And that was the day that I look back like I made the worst mistake of my life. And it was because I just felt like my cup was overfull with trauma and I couldn't hold it anymore. I was completely overwhelmed. I was 24. I was in Germany, and I had all this trauma back to back to back. And then I walked straight down the hallway to psychiatry and said, I cannot take one more piece of trauma. I can't. And that was when the first prescription was given.
Oh my gosh. And then, so one of the things that I want to ask you, one other question that I had for you, that this is something I wanted to ask you already, but when you're in a situation like that, not only are you experiencing hypervigilance and that, those kinds of things, and it heightens your cortisol levels are running high, which they're not designed to do on a regular basis. But you also have an emotional, like a feeling of responsibility for the people around you. Was it difficult, do you think, to have to leave? Were there feelings of like, I failed somehow, or I'm leaving people behind, or I should be there? Like, was that playing into
Yes,
it as well?
it was very complicated. Like nobody's ever asked me that question, first of all. So I'm looking to the left because I'm retrieving old memories. But
Yeah.
I remember being on the airplane during the medevac, and as soon as we took off, I had two different feelings at the same time. One, thank you, Jesus, I'm not going to die. Because I had this feeling like I'm going to die here. I will never see my family again. I'm either going to get hit by a bomb or I'm going to die from this illness. So it was like every single day. That's what I was living in. And I was making my cot up every day and making sure all my stuff was in order, because when somebody dies in combat, they ship all their stuff back to their family. And so I had this constant awareness of like, don't make a mess in case you die, because then they can take everything back for you. So I remember having a mixed feeling of, oh my God, I'm not going to die in Iraq, and I should not be leaving because my soldiers need me. And I know you guys, it's hard to like explain the military to people that have never been in it the same way, like people on meds and coming off meds. It's not, but it's like, I was looked at like a leader, kind of like not a mother, but like a matriarch of my unit, like the go-to person. She knows everything. She is very technically proficient. She takes care of her soldiers. So like, to pull that out of a unit, it wasn't good. You know what I mean? So I had mixed feelings. I'm not going to die, but I should not be leaving. Like, they need me. So then when my soldier came back and he told me what happened, it was basically some incompetence where the IED went off and they sat there, and that's not protocol. Usually if an IED goes off, you leave the area immediately, because there could be small arms fire. There could be something happen after, because usually the insurgents back then would try to like immobilize the convoy, and then they would attack it. So our unit sat there, and they should not have been sitting there. And so while they were sitting there, my soldier was bleeding out. So he's sitting in trauma, and they couldn't communicate with the front vehicle to tell him to go. So that part, I was like, if I was there, that would not have happened. Like, we would have been out of there. So yeah, there's lots of mixed feelings at the same time.
Yeah. Yes. Now that I understand what we've done with creating these diagnoses where it labels something and it ends curiosity because you think you have a disease, you think you have like this underlying etiology that's been identified, when in fact all we're doing is labeling symptoms, like somebody who's running fever being labeled diagnosed with fever disorder. So when you listen to your story, just to this point, it's very clear why you were struggling emotionally. Very clear. Like, there are so many different sources of issues that are leading you to emotional dysregulation and distress, right? But instead of them having, giving you the tools to like, okay, this is what we need to do. We got to help your body heal. We're going to help you get proper nutrition, help your gut heal. And then we got to help you, process all of this emotional trauma that we have subjected you to through everything that happens in war, they just labeled you and started giving you medication. And that was, from your story is unique, I think, in that I don't know that I've ever talked to somebody who has experienced the level of what I would deem psychiatric abuse that you've been through. Like the amount of medications that you were on is like
Yeah,
unconscionable. It feels like malpractice to me. So
it
tell
does.
me, what they gave you medication. They started you on medication. What happened after that? Like, tell me how that kind of spiraled is what really happened.
Yeah. Well, right out of the bat, it was a benzo, which I found out since that is contraindicated for post-traumatic stress because it can make it worse, which it absolutely did. Okay. So they gave me a small dose of a benzo. Then within 2 weeks, I remember feeling so much worse. I was like, I couldn't hardly leave my room. I couldn't go to formation because standing out in the open with a big crowd of people with airplanes flying over was so triggering. Like I couldn't handle it. My nervous system was like, I'm under attack. So like there was this heightened hypervigilance and sensitivity that I didn't have in the war zone. Okay. But they were telling me that's your post-traumatic stress forming. So now looking back after all I've been through, I'm like, oh my God, I had an immediate adverse reaction to these drugs and they saw it as illness. So then I had a high heart rate. So they put me on a beta blocker. Then they said, let's try antidepressants. And I actually recently found some of my paperwork and I had written on the paperwork, like I've tried Paxil. It made me feel sleepy. I tried Zoloft, sexual side effects. Like I had put all the drugs that I had been trying because they kept giving me stuff like try this, try that, try. It wasn't scientific at all, you know? And then I just kept getting worse to where I couldn't like talk without crying. I stopped taking showers. Like I just deteriorated very, very quickly. And because I was in the first wave of the war, this is 2003, the very first movement, I was one of the first to come back. So there was not an awareness of what is post-traumatic stress or like, how do you deal with it? It was just, oh, they went to war. Now they're back. We don't really know what to do with them. Just give them a bunch of meds. That was the understanding at the time. And then I went through redeployment where I was going to get deployed back. And I had 2 ear infections and severe high heart rate. And they were like, you are not going anywhere. Like you're going to psychiatry. Like you need to get screened again. And then when I went in there, I finally just like all this emotion that was like held back, this is like 6 months after I was home. It just all came out like vomit. And then that's when like I lost my career. They put me into an intensive outpatient program. More meds came. I was going to the psychiatrist or a therapist like every single day for like 90 days. They said I couldn't be around soldiers and I couldn't be around weapons. And it made me feel like I just shared my soul because I've been holding all this trauma and feeling, and now I'm getting punished for it. Like you're taking away everything that's important to me and you're telling me that it's my problem and my brain and I'm just the one that's disordered. But even like me saying it now, I'm like, of course I was freaking out. Of course I was panicking and couldn't sleep. Of course, like I was absolutely robbed of like a natural healing process or any kind of validation or understanding because nobody around me had been there. They don't know what it was like. It was just like, let's just follow the textbook. You're having weird symptoms, like medically retire her. So I was medically retired.
One of the other things that it feels like we're just now starting to understand this, is that not only were you dealing with like all of these really intense mental and emotional issues that were caused by the situation. So I think it's important to recognize and validate the fact that we create mental health crises with, and this is not, please, nobody take this as disparaging our troops. I am so grateful for the people who are willing to put their lives on the line, who are willing to protect our country and our freedom. So please don't take that. But I think that we put people in these situations that are not normal or healthy, right?
No.
You're going to put people in this place where they have to be hyper vigilant on a regular basis all the time. And not everybody, so you have it is normal to have the types of reactions that you were having, right?
Yeah.
And they had dysregulated your brain chemistry with the medications so that you couldn't even handle it in a way that your brain might have been able to handle it better had you not had your brain dysregulated by the drugs.
Yeah.
Right. So you've got like this coming out, two barrels. I don't know what the right word is, but you've got two different like major issues that are combining against you. And the treatment itself is making things worse, right?
And I'm 24 years old, overseas with no support system. Like It was just people in my unit. And I had been moved to a new unit within a month in Washington State. So now I'm with new people. So I'm completely out of my context that I couldn't, like, during World War II, the guys did not come back with significant post-traumatic stress because they were on the boat together coming back from Europe for months and months and months. And they had all this time to talk and debrief. And even guys in my generation, the amputees, they say, I was at Walter Reed for a year, getting all these surgeries, but I had all this time at PT talking to the other guys. And so there's like this debriefing with community that helped them. And I didn't get any of that. It was like, you're back in the United States and now you're mentally ill. Like, okay, but over there I was fine. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell us what happens next? Because this is not the end of your story. This is really
that's the beginning.
Yeah.
So then I get medically retired. I was married at the time. So my husband was stationed in Georgia. So we had to let him come and move to Washington. And then I had 3 surgeries back to back. So then I was given pain meds. I get addicted to the pain meds. I get cold turkeyed off a benzo. And this is all in hindsight because I didn't know what was happening at the time. Okay. Now I'm put on 18 medications at the same time. My husband leaves, cheats, leaves this girl. Leaves with the girl. I get evicted because he didn't pay the rent where I was paying the bills. We had this deal. I get evicted. My dad has to come pick me up from Texas, take me back to Missouri. I am like popping Valium, trying to get off opiates, like out of my mind. I couldn't even get out of the U-Haul to like go eat food. Like it was that bad. He takes me straight to a rehab, like a psychiatric hospital. They take me off a bunch of meds, throw me on a bunch more. I am like, that's when I got diagnosed with bipolar. It's funny to me because they saw me for 10 minutes. And here's the funny part. They put me on all these meds for bipolar and I'm in the hospital and I can't sleep. And they're like, why aren't you sleeping? You should be sleeping. We put you on all the right meds. And I'm like, because I'm not bipolar. Like I was telling them that. And they were like, so then they made more drug changes. And so next thing I know, I'm like, that's kind of when I think I was on like 14 at the time or something. Then I get outpatient. So basically I bounced in and out for like 4 or 5 years, in and out of psych wards, changing meds, changing therapists, getting fired by a therapist, getting fired by a psychiatrist who told me I was treatment resistant. I have a whole speech on that. And I'm just like lost more than ever. And then I really had made up my mind. I don't know how let me share this for you two to censor myself a little. I was like convinced like this is the end. I'm just done. I'm not doing this anymore. Mm-hmm. I was at the lowest of my whole life. No friends, no dating, out of my mind on all these meds. And I was like, I need to find like the highest building because I'm just going to jump off. Like I'm done with this. And then I had one last chance. I had been calling insurance company. I've been trying to find a place that could like be more holistic. They wouldn't take me because I was taking a benzo. I had diaries of like all the places that I was calling, trying to get help. And then like even a place would tell me it's a weekend, ma'am. We can't give you a referral on a weekend. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to make it till Monday. Now what? And it was like, sorry, So then I think I went to the emergency room at VA. I can't even remember how I met this doctor, but I think I enrolled in VA. I had been scared of it, but I finally find this doctor and he's like, who put you on all these meds? And I was like, well, the VA emergency room, the old doctor that I had and the civilian doctor, they all kind of signed off on it together. And he was like, well, this is too much. And if I can get you a hospital bed, will you check in and I will take you off a bunch of this? And I was like, okay. So I remember like throwing away everything in my house that could even possibly be abused. Like maraschino cherries went in the trash. Like anything that like cold medicine. Like I was like, I got to get all this shit out of my house, all these meds, all these vitamins, all these supplements. And I'm just going to like give this a college try. Like, let's just see what he does. So I go in the hospital, they take me off 10. I am hallucinating. I am hearing things. I am talking to people. I see like ghosts in the hallway. I am talking to the nurse like I am not well. Okay. And she's like, well, you got to stay here for 45 days. They're making a bunch of your med changes. And I told the doctor, like, I don't feel safe here. Like, this is not good. And he's like, you're going to be fine. Just hang out. Just stay here for a little bit. So I was there for 45 days doing all these med changes. Then I did like a 90-day program. But again, they treated me like I was an addict. Like I'm in all these addiction programs or like these hope hours once a week. And then they made me go to AA meetings. And I was like, I'm not an alcoholic though. But it was like, I needed something. So I stuck with it. And then it took me the next like 8 years to get off the next 8. And it was like an antipsychotic, a mood stabilizer, anti-seizure meds, benzo, antidepressant. And it would be like they'd cold turkey me in like 6 weeks, or they'd let me taper for 2 months, and then they just tell me to stop it. And so I just kept getting less and less and less meds. And as that happened, I got better and better and better. So there's like an inverse relationship. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So there's one thing that I want you to share, because you kind of had your light bulb moment that was just like, this isn't right. And so can you share that experience with the audience? Because I think it's really, a lot of us have these kinds of experiences, you know, things that kind of a switch flips in us and we're like, this isn't right. Something's wrong. I've got to do something different. And so can you share that experience?
Yeah. I would say there was a few. It wasn't just one. It was like, first of all, let me say this. When you're on 18 medications, you don't even have the ability cognitively to understand what is happening. You don't even understand, why am I on 18 meds? That is a little excessive. Okay. And I had no one in my life at the time, like monitoring or asking me questions about what are you doing with psychiatry, nothing. Everybody in my life had just written me off as like the mentally ill one. Like, she went to war, she went a little crazy, she came back, leave her alone, she's disabled. Like, that's literally how my community and my family treated me. So let me say that first. So I think the first moment was when I met that doctor and he was like, why are you on all this? Like, that was the first time it like dawned on me, well, I don't know, I'm just listening to you guys, you know?
Yeah.
So that was the first inkling. The second, the next couple were like, just these little whispers, like, why am I anxious all the time? I never feel good. Why don't I have gratitude? Why can't I feel love for my dog? Why do I feel numb all the time? Why am I not dating? And it would be like one of those a year would just be like, why? And then I remember one time I approached a therapist about it and I was like, I feel like dead, like numb, and I don't feel sexual. And then she was like, well, that's probably your old trauma. So then it was the gaslighting thing, you know? And then I was like, oh my God, do I need to go work on this other trauma? You know? And then I would go down some rabbit hole with trauma. And so during that time, I read like 300 books, and it was, believe it or not, it was Bessel van der Kolk's book, The Body Keeps the Score, where it was the first time that I had been like exposed to material that said post-traumatic stress is not a death sentence and you don't have to take meds for the rest of your life, but there is ways to heal it. And that was the first time I heard that. And I was like, what? So that like gave me a little hope for once. But yeah, it took years for me to like really understand like what was happening.
Yeah. And one of the things that I want to ask you if you experience this as well, but the gaslighting, you mentioned gaslighting, and it is so real. And I don't think they understand that that's what they're doing. So I'm gonna give some credit to the psychiatrists and therapists, because they don't understand what they're doing, but they have been taught to gaslight. Because
I have a theory about that.
Yeah, go for it.
It's that they only have one set of glasses, and their set of glasses is DSM-5 in psychiatry. Yes. Okay. So when I do presentations for therapists and stuff, I say, I understand that you have this set of glasses. I'm not going to take your glasses. I just want you to like take them off, and I'm going to give you some reading glasses. We're going to try on another pair. And this set of glasses is, I want you to critically think about this, but like, look at the person in front of you. If they're on 5 meds and they're not doing well, is that really their illness, or could that be iatrogenic? So like, I think they only see things through illness lens. That's it. Everything is bipolar. It's developing. It's it's on the individual. It can't possibly be the meds. It can't possibly be the treatment. Is this person in front of me is doing something wrong, and we need to rearrange the situation.
Well, and it's almost like my experience with psychiatrists, not all. I had my final psychiatrist, the last psychiatrist that I had, was very compassionate, and I will forever be grateful to him for being willing to see me and see what I was suffering with beyond his training. Because the first 7 years with him, it was very like, don't worry, we're going to find the right meds. He was very like focused on that. And then after my hospitalizations, and he could see how much I was suffering, and he was starting to be open to like, maybe there's another option for her. And unfortunately, it didn't carry into the rest of his practice, but at least for me, he saw me as a person to be helped rather than as a patient to be fixed, But most of the other psychiatrists that I saw, like the gaslighting was next level, because there were these like inklings in the back of my mind that thought that this doesn't make sense. Like when I would have psychiatrists say like, this is like diabetes and the medication's like insulin.
Yeah.
And my brain would want to accept that because it was giving me, some kind of a frame of reference. But then I kept thinking, yeah, but we don't like play guess and check with insulin. Like there aren't different kinds of insulin, and you keep trying the different ones until you find the right one. Like there is an insulin that everybody uses because we understand the disease mechanism, right? Or the illness mechanism. But why do you guys have to keep trying all these different medications? Like I had a box of samples because they kept trying different things, and when it wouldn't work or I'd have really intolerable side effects, then they would try something else, and they just kept giving me samples. Now I'm looking at it thinking like, oh my gosh, like all of these things that I was suffering were withdrawal, and like my brain was going nuts because I've been put on something for a couple months and then taken off, and then put on something else for a couple months and then taken off, and it sounds like this one psychiatrist was like the first person that saw you as a person, like started thinking like maybe this isn't working here, and maybe we need to try something different. Like I got to help this person. But it feels like a lot of what we experience with psychiatric treatment is kind of dehumanization, like depersonalization. Like you're broken and we're gonna fix you. And it's it feels like I'm a project to be fixed. Like, oh, let's study her and see what we can, let's try a little bit of this and let's try a little bit of this. And I'm a person that's like suffering there, and nobody's listening to me when I'm saying this doesn't feel good. I don't like this.
Yep. Exactly. You reminded me of kind of at the end, I had seen another therapist. This is like 2016, so this is more recent. And the therapist was like, oh, they were asking me all these questions. And then they said, oh, I think you have generalized anxiety disorder. And at that point, I was so over it. I was like, I just became so disillusioned. Like all these experts, all they do is either give me meds or change my meds or tell me I have a new diagnosis, and I'm getting nowhere. I've been doing that for 13 years, listening to everything that you people are telling me, and I've never felt worse. And so I got really pissed like at that guy, and I was like, I'm done with this therapy. You know what I mean? And then right after that, I went into the psych ward for the last time. And I remember the doctor was like, do you want to be admitted? Like she asked me, and I'm like, yeah, I just drove an hour and a half. Why else would I come here? Yeah, I do want to be admitted. She like gave me this option. And then I get admitted, and I had forgotten a bag in my car that had feminine products in it. And so she admits me, but I'm not like in the hospital yet. And so I said, can I run to my car and get my bag? And she's like, no, you're admitted. You're not going anywhere. So then all of a sudden I'm like, what, am I kidnapped? So then I changed my clothes into this yellow jumpsuit. They put me in a plastic wheelchair, and I am wheeled via wheelchair up to the fourth floor with two police officers. And I'm sitting first of all, I'm a lot more animated now. Okay. Remember, I was very medicated back then. I was quiet. I was docile. I was vulnerable. I was sick. I didn't feel good. I'm just sitting in the wheelchair like, what is going on here? So that was kind of like, it was so obvious to me. Like how did I even get in a plastic wheelchair with two police officers when I came here asking for help, and I didn't even do anything for this to happen? But it was because my doctor had been tapering my last drug, the very last drug I was on, way too fast, and my brain just freaked out. And so that was where the crisis came from, but that was seen as mental illness. This person has bad post-traumatic stress. Look at all the years of records that we have. Look at all the things she's tried. She's just a lost cause. And it was the fucking medicine.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Sorry.
So no, don't say sorry. I have so much compassion for what you've done. And I, yes. And it's the more I want to ask you this. So I have a lot of things to ask you, but
yeah.
So there are a lot of times I think just surviving this and coming out on the other end healed would be enough of an accomplishment. But what you have done though is taken your suffering and turned it into purpose, because it wasn't enough for you to just help yourself. You really recognized you needed to help other people. So tell me about that. Like, tell me how you went from a point where you were kind of catatonic and barely able to like survive your life, right? To now you're like, you help other people who are suffering that way. And you have become a huge outspoken advocate for, and which I don't think anybody who's never been in this space, somebody who's not been in this space will not understand what that entails, because it is I think I'd mentioned this to you before. I was so excited to share what I'd learned. Like when I discovered it was actually possible to recover, I'm like, I gotta tell everybody, man, we gotta shout this from the rooftops. And I was shocked, genuinely shocked by the vitriol and anger and attacks that I got. Like I was not prepared for that. It never occurred to me that that was going to happen. And so when it first
Yeah.
happened, I was like, whoa, wait a minute. I'm just trying to help people. Like I just want to help share what I learned. I wish that somebody had told me this. So I want to help other people. So tell me about how you got into this space. What made you decide to turn this into purpose and to start helping other people for your life
I
work?
think, yeah, thank you. I think it was like I was being led a little bit. Like, first I was so sick and withdrawal from my last drug. It wasn't just the last drug, it was all those years of my nervous system being hammered with medications. And so I'm off of everything. And now I have this like horrible benzo withdrawal. People die from that. And I lived through that. Okay. So I couldn't stand up to shower for 2.5 years. I was in a constant state of terror level anxiety. Like my whole family had been murdered and I was next. Like it was out of this world that I didn't even understand. Like, how could a person feel this bad? And then you look completely normal and you sound normal, but the inside of your body was like a torture chamber. Okay. So I'm in this state. I'm by myself. I am trying to hang on to the ability to like go to the grocery store and feed myself. Like that's how bad it was. Okay. And I found these Facebook groups, maybe when I was like 6 months off of everything. I was trying to kind of investigate like what just happened to me, because I knew I was like sick, but now I'm like a whole nother level. And the only thing that happened in there was I was taken off that last drug. So I started investigating like as best as I could with an injured brain, like what is benzo withdrawal? And I think I Googled it and found some posts on Huffington Post. And I was like, oh my God, that's what I'm going through. And then that led me to like Benzo Buddies, an online forum of people that were in benzo withdrawal, which led me to Facebook groups. And so I'm in these Facebook groups and I'm watching everybody else suffer and I'm suffering. And like there was something in me, because I'm just kind of like a helper, which isn't necessarily good, but I was like telling people, you'll heal from this. Don't worry, keep going. People heal from this. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm too damaged. Like I was given 40 meds. I have multiple brain injuries, mild TBI, not from war, but after. I had all this trauma. I had the family trauma, my relationships, all those things. And I was exposed to burn pits. I went to war. I had all the stuff that all these other people online didn't have. So I'm like, they're going to recover, but not me. So it started like that. Then the film found me. The film filmed me. And I was like, I honestly wasn't even convinced I was going to stay alive. And then I thought, well, I'm in this movie. Like, I can't end it because I don't want them to be like, oh, Angie was a great person and then she died. So I stay in the movie. Then the movie comes out. I start touring with the movie. I'm like 4 years off, still out of my mind, sitting in front of like an audience of 300 people with bright lights on me. And I had akathisia and I couldn't even sit still. I'm moving the whole time. And I'm thinking I'm going to pass out in front of this whole audience of people. But somehow the words would come out. So then I'm seeing all these audiences. We did like all together, probably like 200 appearances on podcasts and in person and little small community gatherings. And I hear all these stories of all these other people. And then I start getting pushback here and there, meds work for people. What you're sharing is dangerous. I'd get all these like things that people would say. And, I just kind of got tired of the movement and talking about it so much. And I was like, let me just try to coach people and see what happens. Like, do people want me to, do they need coaching? Like, do they need help? Because like when I went through this, there was nobody really ahead of me saying like, you're going to recover. Even you, Angie.
Yeah.
So I did this like in this unknown, like, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm too scared to end it. So let's just see what happens. But, I learned all these things through that process. Like some things I waited on, some things I had to push through, some things I had to be learn like self-compassion and positive self-talk and like all these little skills that I had. Some of the stuff worked. I would try it on. It didn't work. So I was like, let me just see if people want me to coach. And then one person to the next. And the next thing I know, I have like a full practice. I'm booked 4 months out. I'm like, oh my God, this is nuts. So I also did a lot of advocacy during that time. We helped change the FDA label on benzodiazepines to get it added that benzo withdrawal is a real thing and it can take months and years. I helped, I helped Inner Compass initiatives get a lot of community brought to them. I helped Benzo Info Coalition. I help a little bit now and then in the background. I run peer support groups for Outro Health, which help people taper antidepressants safely. So I've done a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
part of it is like, I'm mad. And then
Yeah.
part of it is like a little bit of revenge. Like,
Yeah.
these assholes almost killed me. And I have something to say about that. I'm not just going to go quietly into the wind. You mess with the wrong person, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that every once in a while I don't really experience this anymore, but when I first started this, because I've been working for not as long as you, but I've been doing this for about 5 years. And the first couple years, thankfully I had somebody who was like, no, you got to keep doing this. So I would keep coming back to it. But there were so many times when I'm like, nobody really wants to hear what I'm saying, and why am I doing this to myself?
I feel the same.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah. And you just think like nobody cares. But once you actually start helping individuals, when you start helping somebody and you're actually seeing their life get better, it totally changes what you're doing. Because it's just noise to me now when somebody attacks me online. Like, it's just noise. Like, I feel compassion actually, because I think I am so sorry that you've bought into this so fully. I'm so sorry that, and I'll say things like, somebody's like, med saved my life. And I'm like, I'm so happy you're happy with your treatments. I'm really happy for you. That's awesome.
Yeah.
However, there's a reason, for, in my space, 83% of the people who are diagnosed and treated for bipolar end up severely impaired, which is disabled. Like, there's a reason that that's happening. Yeah. And once you see behind the curtain, you can't unsee it. Like, understanding how the diagnoses were created in the DS, there's no underlying etiology that was identified for these disorders. They just came up with like groups, like this group of symptoms will call this, and this group of symptoms will call this. And then when people didn't fit within the category, they just expanded the category. Right. And so it's
and even like when I got that diagnosis, I wasn't hypomanic. I did not impulsively do anything, and I did not stay awake. And I still to this day was like, why did they give me that diagnosis? It had to be two things. One, that my dad was bipolar and he had seen that doctor before. So he knew my dad is bipolar. So he just connects the dots. The second reason, because that particular psych hospital, they get paid more to diagnose people with bipolar because they need more treatment. So he gets more visits. There's nothing scientific about it. But me as a patient, that is on my record forever. So every time I go to the doctor, every time I go to the emergency room, they see that first. And then like I said, I'm seen through that lens. This is a bipolar person sitting in front of me. So anything I say is discredited immediately,
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was after a 10-minute visit. 10 minutes. It's 10 minutes.
I know. It's so infuriating to me. And one of the things I've had a couple times when people will come to me and they'll say, yeah, I have an appointment with a psychiatrist, but I've been looking at other things. And I'm like, do not go to the psychiatrist. Like, that is not going to tell you why you're experiencing these symptoms. The diagnosis does not identify the source. All it's doing is identifying the cluster of symptoms. It's like, it's like somebody's running fevers being diagnosed with fever disorder. It does not tell you why you have the fever. It just identifies that you have the symptoms, right? So that's not going to give you an explanation, but it often successfully ends curiosity into the source of the symptoms. Like, people stop looking for answers because they think they've been told what's wrong with them. And, and then when the medication isn't helping, it's a very self-serving diagnosis too, and prognosis, because to say, I was told bipolar is chronic and curable. You'll have it for the rest of life. The same things you were told about like PTSD and these things, like, they tell you it's chronic and curable. You're going to have it for the rest of your life. It's neurodegenerative. It'll get worse if you don't treat it. All of these things that they say are very self-serving, because when the treatment doesn't work, oh, it's just your bipolar, it's just the nature. We just got to keep working until we find the right combination of medications. And it's so unscientific.
Yep.
So let me ask you, you have letters behind your name. How did that happen? Where along this line did you get a degree?
Yeah. I was graduating with my bachelor's. Let me think. I think I was a year and a half off. And thank God that I had front loaded my whole degree, where all the hard classes were at the beginning and only the easy stuff was left at the end. So I was in withdrawal, going to watercolor art class with harm OCD. I'll just put it like that. Trying to paint, like, can't even sit in a chair, akathisia, suicidal thoughts, intrusive, like out of my freaking mind, can't even stand up to take a shower. And I'm sitting there trying to look at the paintbrush, like paint something to keep me in reality, you know? So all I had was like art and writing and medical anthropology, I think, left. That was it. And I finished my degree. And then I was like, I can't, I'm done. And then what happened was my rehab counselor, because I was in this special program for rehabilitation for mental illness, she's like, we will pay for your master's if you stay in school because you did so well at bachelor's. And usually VA does not do that. Okay. So I was like, what? I mean, that's $200,000 worth of education. Plus I would get 1,800 month stipend for housing. And then I was like, I don't know if I can do it. And she's like, you need something to stay in reality because you are in, because she did understand what I was going through a little bit. So I was like, okay, I have no idea how I'm going to do this, but we're going to do a master's degree in withdrawal with a brain that's completely shattered. And I just viewed it like, I'll never forget the first day on campus. I said to myself, this is brain injury rehab. It is making me be somewhere. I have people around me. I'm in reality. I have to take this one class at a time, one assignment at a time, one sentence at a time. And that's just how it's going to have to be done. And I don't know if I can do it. If I can't, I will stop. Like I can't, like I just drop out. Like what else can I do? So again, I'm in this film and the filmmakers are like, Angie, yes, stay in reality. You have to, because I was at home alone with my own thoughts with this shattered brain, like on the edge of psychosis for years. Okay. So something grounded and in reality was helping me stay out of my symptoms as much as I could. So I earned a master's in social work. And to be fair, it's one of the easiest degrees you can get. There's no test, there's no math. And I did that kind of on purpose because I originally wanted to be clinical psychology PhD, but I was like, there's no way. And then I wanted public health, but I couldn't even study for the GMAT because I was so out of it. So I just was like, or GRE, sorry. So I was like, this is what it's going to be, so thank God. And I'm just lucky to have my internship supervisor. He had known me. He was my director of a program when I was in California in an inpatient PTSD program. He was now my supervisor. And then my second supervisor was a nun who did not believe in pathologizing, who believed everyone had relationship problems or emotional problems, but it wasn't a medical problem. She was a nun and a nurse. So I just got so lucky. Everything was like, just keep going, Angie, just keep one class at a time. And so I earned a master's in social work. I did an extra year of somatic experiencing training after that. I did some Gestalt training. I did some peer mentoring training. I had done that like years before, speaker training, media training. So like I did as much as I could to keep me busy, but I promise you, my brain did not remember a lot of that. It's kind of blurry, but it got me through like the hardest part of my life, honestly.
Well, and one of the things that there's a theme in your life, which is that when you're trying to recover, you have to have a reason to keep going. You have to have something, a purpose in your life and a way to focus. Viktor Frankl talks about that man's search for meaning, that when he was in the concentration camps, he was projecting his mind into the future where he would be standing in front of a group of students sharing what he learned through that experience. And that helped him to keep going in hell. Like it kept him going through hell because he could help himself see beyond the hell, right? And have a purpose to what he was doing. And that's what you're talking about, like, helping other people, advocating, sharing your experience, and then hearing other people share their experiences, and then starting to help people through their own withdrawal. What did you do to learn how to do that? Like, how did you learn how to coach people through the withdrawal process?
Good question. What happened was someone convinced me to make a YouTube video when I was 6 months off. And I just sat on my floor and I ranted. You can hear it in my speech. Like I'm talking super fast. I barely am taking a breath because I'm just like in this terror state. And I was basically saying like, I think this is why veterans end their lives because they're put on a bunch of meds. And this just happened to me. And I've never wanted to be here less than right now, and it has to be because of these medications. And then 6 months later I posted another video, and then 7 or 8 months later when I had like a somewhat okay day, I posted another video. I couldn't really post regularly because I was so out of it, but like every once in a while I'd be like, okay, I think I need to talk about this. So I just started like talking about things that I was learning or things I was experiencing. And so I was kind of like being vulnerable and transparent about the process. And then people started commenting like, that's happening to me too. Did you have dizziness? Did you have POTS? Like they'd start asking me questions and then I'd reply. And then that was 10 years ago. So now I have like 8,000 subscribers. And I mean, I get comments from all over the world, from Israel, from Iran, from Portugal, like just people all over the planet, just like, this has happened to me. Look what my doctor did. So then when I started coaching, people would just ask me questions at first, or they would seek reassurance, or like, will this symptom go away? Did you have this symptom? Have you heard of this with other people? And of course, because I had been in different advocacy roles, like I had, you know, experience working with people that were researching this, or doctors that had done this for 20 years that I had asked questions of. So I was just sharing like everything I had learned through that film, through all the panels, through my own experience. And then I'd learn from the clients, because I would watch them. You know, there was times, I'm not going to lie, like I was like, I don't know if this person's going to make it. Like, this is too hard. It is too hard. Like, I don't want to glamorize withdrawal. It's the hardest thing. It's 100 times harder than going to combat. Okay. Well, I have people that have had cancer, and they say, I will take cancer 100 times rather than do this again. Okay. It is not, it's like your whole brain is hijacked by a chemical. You rip the chemical away, and then you're like, here you go. See ya. Go act normal. And your body's like, I can't. I have been dependent on these drugs for 25 years or whatever it is, you know? So I learned a lot from the clients, like watching what worked for them, watching people make mistakes, like taking a bunch of supplements. You know, I know that might have helped other people that you know. I saw people take things and it made them worse. I saw some people be able to take those when they had milder injuries. I saw people try to go back on meds, or go on this or go on that. And then I just you start to make patterns, like, these people are severe. This certain thing can work for them. These people are moderate. These certain things work for them. These people are mild. They'll be fine in 6 months. You know, just let them, keep them busy, you know, kind of thing. So you start to see like patterns emerge, basically. But I learned a lot from them, a lot.
So do you still coach people? Do you still have
Yep.
clients, and do you still coach people?
Yeah.
So when somebody works with you, what does that look like? What is it like? What do you do? How are you helping them?
Good question. Usually I have different kinds of people. So I'd say there's probably like 6 distinct groups. There's people that are just coming to this, like, I don't know if I want to take meds anymore. Can you just help me get some information? Because I need to think about it and learn about it. Okay. Then there's people that are actively tapering. They have already made that decision. They're working with a doctor. They have a compounding pharmacist, whatever the case may be, they're tapering. Then I have people that were either cold turkeyed or taken off too fast by doctors. They are in acute level withdrawal. Then I have people that are 2 years off or more that still have symptoms. I was in that group. I was severely protracted. I still have symptoms to this day. They're kind of mild. I'm 10 years off. Then I had people that their parents or their family members, or they have a kid with serious mental illness, and they're trying to like find a good way to harm reduce. Like, they're on too many meds. Like, how do I talk to the doctor? What could I give them? What can I show them? That kind of thing. So I have a group offering where it's all peer supported, group coaching. You know, people bring questions or topics like, I'm really angry. I feel betrayed by the system. What do I think about my diagnosis? Am I mentally ill? Am I not? Is this medication induced? Is this not? Like, people are trying to figure out a lot of stuff for themselves, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And we do that like in a group format. The individual stuff, it's a lot. It's a really good question, because I actually struggle with this a lot. Like, what am I doing? What am I actually doing? And honestly, the only thing I can tell you is I know what this process is like. I know what the body is capable of. I know what healing looks like. And I know that so well because I've seen it thousands of times. I don't worry about the other person. I know that what they're experiencing is suffering to 1,000 degree, but I know their brain is trying to figure things out and it's trying to recover. And so I'm just trying to help them understand that process, and that I know, and I know they don't know and they don't feel it, but like they're going to get there. So partly I'm like holding the health that they can't feel for themselves.
Yeah.
I'm helping them navigate the process. I'm helping them keep their nervous system safe as possible. I'm helping them find ways to deal with the suffering. I say, like, I call myself a healing coach, but I should be a suffering coach, because the people that I talk to, they're suffering. Yeah. And so we have to learn how to not be afraid of our suffering. That's the cardinal mistake that we all made, that I was afraid of my sensations and my symptoms, and someone taught me to be afraid of that. And like, now I don't really have a choice. Like, the suffering is here. My body is trying to recover. I need to be in relationship with that with least resistance as possible.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Well, there is so much power in having somebody who has been down the path and then is willing to come back and walk others down that same path, because they're like, it feels very scary. It feels like we're walking in the dark. That's what it
Yeah,
felt like to me. When I was going through recovery,
exactly.
I didn't actually know I was recovering. I
I
believed
didn't
up
either. No.
until a few years ago, I still believed. It wasn't until I read Anatomy of an Epidemic that my brain was like, wait a minute, hang on a second. Because I was, when I first, the first 2 years, if you go back and look at, and I didn't pull it down because I thought, that's honest. I want to be honest with people. And I still believed bipolar was chronic. It was incurable. I'd have it for the rest of my life. Like I was afraid to tell
Mm.
people that medications were causing problems because I thought, well, maybe
Hmm.
that's true for me and not true for somebody else. So I was like, there was a lot of anxiety and fear around like what I don't want to hurt somebody. So I was
Yeah.
very careful about what I said until I started reading Robert Whitaker's stuff, like Anatomy of an Epidemic, Mad in America, and then started reading Joanna Moncrief's and then I got really angry. I was like, I have been totally lied to. Like this is all not
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
But I think that what you're saying is something that I've experienced myself, which is a lot of what you're doing is intuitive because you went through it yourself. Then you've educated yourself further. You've learned from other people. You've learned by watching what other people are going through in that. And so you kind of just know, like leading somebody down a path, that you can see and they can't see. And you're just kind of
Yes.
intuitively saying, okay, this is, now we're going to turn this way. And now you need to just take this step this way
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
help, and having them kind of holding the hand, metaphorically, of somebody else who, it's something solid to keep them moving forward and feel like, okay, they're still here. They're still with me. They keep telling
Yes.
me that it's okay, that I'm getting closer to the end of this. Right. And there's tremendous power in that just being there with somebody and saying,
Yeah.
yes, you can get there. Yes, I promise you, this is going to get better. I know this sucks right now, and this is how it feels right now. And so they know, what they're feeling, right? And then they can,
Yep.
then, and you're like, yeah, this sucks, but it's going to get better. And just trust me,
Yeah.
so tell me what, I know that I've seen you before share, and I'm only bringing this up because you've shared it openly, that there are
Yeah.
times when you're just like, I need a break from this, right?
Oh
Can you
yeah.
talk
I'm on a
about
break
that?
right now.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I'm on a
So
break.
talk about that because well, and let
Go
me tell
ahead.
you why I'm
Yeah.
asking about that, because I
Yeah.
think that there's an idea. I'm sure you get accused of this all the time, like I do, that you were misdiagnosed or you're
Oh
just,
yeah.
you're just in
It's hilarious.
what is it? I don't know why I'm
You were
forgetting the
worried
word right
well.
now.
You're the worried well.
Yeah. Well, or
Yeah.
that you're just in remission and then it's going to come back, right? Like there's
No.
this, so many people are
No.
so bought into the idea that these are incurable conditions and that you can't be, they can't be cured. So if you are healing or you are healed, you were misdiagnosed, or you're not really healed, you're just in remission. So
Mm-hmm.
there's this idea that either you're mentally well or you're mentally ill, and there's no in between.
Ugh.
And so
Ah. Makes me
yeah,
want to
yeah.
vomit.
So
It's
well, but
hilarious.
it's like life is hard. Life is hard,
Yeah.
especially if you've been injured internally, right? Life is going to be
Yeah.
hard, and it continue to be hard. But once you learn what you're actually dealing with, you can see it through a different lens, and you know how to take care of yourself, and you know what you need to do. And that's
Yes.
why I admire what you're doing right now in giving yourself a break, because you're like, this isn't healthy. I'm gonna do what's healthy for myself. So can you talk a little bit about that? Because we got to stop having this idea that like once you're healed, you're never going to have a challenge again. You're never going to have a
No.
problem again. Like that's such a
No.
bad, unhealthy way to
Yeah.
view the
And
world.
I'm glad you brought this up because I don't talk about this on my channel or with any of my stuff or any of my people ever. But because of how public I've been, it's like everybody views anything happening to me as its withdrawal.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, I have a life and I have problems and I have had stress and it's not withdrawal. But that's what their glasses are. Everything is
Yeah.
withdrawal. Or for you, everything is bipolar. For me, it's like everything has to be, she's in a setback or, oh my God, she's getting worse. It's not really relapse. But no.
Yeah.
And it couldn't be further from the truth. But so if I'm honest, the reason it's like, hold on, let me say it like this. When you come out of such a horrible state and you start feeling better, you want to do a lot because you missed out. So basically I missed like 20 years of my life. Okay.
Yeah.
So then I'm traveling, I'm trying to meet friends, I am trying to date, I'm working full time, I'm building a business, I'm hiring people, then I'm posting YouTube content, reading all the comments, answering all the emails. Then I lose a friend to suicide, one of my best friends last year. Then I lost my dad. Okay. And then I had to like block some siblings. And at some point, Angie needs to take a break to catch up, to let life catch up on her. Okay. Because here's the thing I've learned: your own business, your insecurities, your vulnerabilities, your weak points, they all come out in your business. So what has come out for me is I work too much, I give to other people, and I don't give to myself. And I don't want to keep reenacting that trauma from my childhood. So I'm like, no, that's not mental illness. That's not withdrawal. That's where I'm at and getting my life back after 20 years of not having it. So it's like, can I work full time? Can I make a decent salary? Sure. Do I really want to do that and run myself ragged? No, I already did that, And so it's just really like a readjustment, but it like, I should put it like this, like it served its purpose because I was like so excited about this and wanted to help a lot of people. And I did that. And now I'm kind of tired, and I have to readjust things. And my business works I had a business coach tell me this. She's like, your business model works for your clients, but it doesn't work for you. Like you're giving too many one-on-one hours and you're not doing enough group and you don't have enough content behind like a paywall or a portal so that people can come and gather. Like that would be a better model for you, not giving all your time one-on-one, because you can only help so many people when you do that, So it's kind of like a lot of things came to a head and I was like, that's it. I need to stop, and then because I stopped it right after my dad died in November, but it takes like 3 months just to play catch up to all the emails and all the appointments that were booked. And so I just am officially like on a break in the last week. It's taken all that time, so, and I'm enjoying it. Like I'm feeding myself really well. I'm on day 10, I think, of keto. I'm working with a keto coach to do that. I've been going to the gym and walking, and I just want to get back to like reading and writing and doing the things I love. And it doesn't need to be for money, and I have enough content out there that people can watch and see, and I'll do what I can with the groups, but that's kind of where I'm heading. Yeah.
That's amazing. I'm so happy that I had the chance to talk to you. I've been following you for so long and I really admire what you're doing. You have done so much good for the people that are suffering. And I think that the thing I'm so grateful for is it's hard when I was on 7 different medications once, at one time I was on 7. I can't even fathom being on 20 medications.
18.
I can't even, or 18. I can't, but I mean, 18 medications. That's almost 3 times what I was on. And I was like flat. There was like zero affect. No, I couldn't feel anything. I felt totally numb.
No. I feel like a robot.
And yeah. And the fact that you had truly the grit and tenacity to survive and then to turn around and be willing to go back and help others. Like, I understand why you were in the military. Like that kind of desire to sacrifice and help others and be willing to, be there for other people and go back and get somebody, even though you're going back into the fire, is incredible. And also, I think it takes tremendous courage to be able to take care of yourself, to be able to step back and say, I don't care what you say, but this is what's good for me. And I'm going to do what's, I've spent so much of my life sacrificing for other people. I've got to take a break and take care of myself, or I won't be allowed to do anything.
I'm not good for nobody.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay. So where can people find you if they want to connect with you? Because I think a lot of people are going to want to connect with you for sure.
Pretty much just Angie Peacock anywhere, like TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, X, angiepeacock.com. I just go by my name because they said that was the best thing to do. Everywhere. I'd say YouTube, you can see interviews like me and Michelle. Michelle's interview will be up this weekend where I interviewed her. And you can see lots of hope videos, my own process, the process of other people, the healing stories of other people that have been through this and be identified with diagnosis and meds or taken a harm reduction approach to psychiatric care. Yeah.
Yeah. And what is the one thing that you hope people will take away from our conversation today? What's the most important thing?
To me, the most important thing is you have an inner voice. There's an inner guidance system. And a lot of things in our world have taken us away from that, even social media or relationships or drugs or alcohol or marijuana or medications. But there's always this voice inside that's like, Angie, you need to take a break. Or Angie, the meds, this is too much. Like, what's going on here? So when you feel this like loving guidance coming from within, I would just beg you to listen to it, that It's trying to help you on a path and to save you pain. And the sooner you listen to that, the better. Everybody has one. Sometimes you just can't hear it, but just start asking, like, what does my inner voice have to tell me today?
That's
Mine
amazing.
says, I need some AC very soon because I'm really hot. It's like 95 degrees. But it could be little like that. It could be like, get away from this person. They're bad for you. You know, who knows? But please listen to that inner voice.
You're amazing. Thank you so much. I'm so
you
grateful
too, Michelle.
that you came on here. That's amazing. All right. And please connect with Angie. I'll make sure everything's linked in the show notes. And until next time, Upsiders.